People, we are live with another Brews at 10. How are you doing? Welcome everybody. I'm your host Lefty. It's great to be catching up once again. I can see the chat's pretty active already. That's awesome. Who've we got? We've got Divinia, we've got Chris, Morbius. Great to see you all back again. Brett James, Flow Snake, Andy Carter. Awesome to see you too. Stephen McKell. 1 lump or 2. I'm sweet enough. And so you, dear viewers, thanks a lot for joining me again. Yeah, it's been a while. I wasn't able to bring you a Sunday live stream this week. Apologies for that. Just couldn't really work it in. Had a lot going on. Two sugars for Andy Carter. And yes, Morbius, that's one of the topics tonight. Yaxley-Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. He's been in prison for 18 months for contempt of court. There's been a few other things going on since I was last with you on a live stream as well. This thing with the Labour MP, who's now been suspended, apparently assaulting someone in the street. Bellenden. Stephen Yaxley-Bellenden. Yeah, so I will be starting off with that story once we get onto articles and clips and stuff. Just wait for people to arrive. I guess I should explain a little bit about the channel for anyone who's joining us for the first time, or if you're watching back on a replay for the first time. This is obviously a socialist channel. Just going to go through the latest news stories, geopolitical events, as we like to do on Brews at 10. And we throw a few tea-based puns in there as well while we're doing that. And I also saw some Palestine flags being raised very early too. Something I always encourage, or watermelons if you prefer. Have the latest on that as well. There was a debate in Parliament today. David Lammy was having to answer for the UK's actions. Spoiler alert, he didn't do a very good job of it. Well, speaking of not doing a very good job, word's probably reached your ears by now about this 50% increase in bus fares, part of Starmer's latest speech. after weeks of Labour MPs going on news rounds and saying that they're not going to reveal exactly what's in the budget, they're not going to hypothesise about the content of the budget, Starmer gets on stage and lays out what's going to be coming up in the budget. It doesn't sound great. So yeah, my left, I'll be taking a look at that as well. Got to do a shameless bit of self-promotion before we get into proceedings as well. Please do make sure you've hit the thumbs up button on the stream. Subscribe if you've not done so. You can join other people in the chat just 60 seconds later. And please do share across your social media platforms as well. There's plenty of ways that you can help to support the channel, as well as helping us out on the algorithm. You can join the channel for just 99 pence. This is the glorious list of current members, and if you want to join this list of incredible people, please do consider joining with a membership or gifting memberships to other viewers as well. Thanks a lot for people who've done that recently. And I can see we've got members in the chat as well, of course, with static emojis. There's other perks as well. Feel free to check them out. And if you're watching back on a replay, super thanks are open on Livestream videos as well. I'm just going to get the first clip lined up. Comedy clip as always. And I'm not referring to Yaxley-Lennon there either. Some good news for a change. Starting off with some good news. So the comedy clips from Ty Hickey, this is a good one, came out a couple of days or so ago, 3 days ago I think. It's kind of like a school reunion, but every different attendee is a different country of the world, and then America shows up, so it's like the USA, but our school reunion. It's really good. Do try and keep up with this one though, because the way it happens is the country's names appear above his head as he used to do in the clip, so. Hedy, Becca, welcome to the chat as well. Great to see you back. Just give another few moments to let people arrive. So yeah, if you want to check out Ty Hickey's stuff as well, he's on YouTube. That's TADHG, and Hickey with an E. Very funny fella. I forgot to mention as well, yeah, the district attorney who's taking legal action against Elon Musk. That's another topic on the agenda tonight. I mentioned that briefly on a recent stream as well, this lottery / giveaway, whatever you want to call it. I, amongst a lot of other people, speculated the legality of it, not being that upon US law, but it certainly seems a little bit untoward. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, untoward. Okay, I'll get over to the screen. Just line up tie. There we go. Oh, very good, Andy, very good. Straight in there with a pun. Questionable legality. Yes, about the Musk $1 million a day giveaway. That's been going on for 9 days now, so he's giving away $9 million, by the way. I'll go on about that later. Let's get started with Ty Hickey. Definitely worth a follow on YouTube and social media as well. Just make sure the audio's coming through.
So, how have you been since school? Not bad, actually, considering what we went through. What up, losers? Hey, man, how are you? Never better, buddy. Really? Because you look like you're falling apart. I said I'd give you greaseballs a chance to hang out with the most popular guy in school one more time. Most popular? We all hate you, dude. You were a bully. What? Bit of banter, maybe. You manipulated and controlled us. Stopped the tuck shop from selling to some of us. I nearly starved to death. You effectively destroyed some of the best of us. Hey, all I ever tried to do was look out for you guys. You know, stop you from hanging out with wrong'uns. Oh, cut the shit, will ya? You're not the good guy. You're a tyrant. And there's only one way to deal with someone like that. Hand their arse to them. Come on, buddy. I told you it was a mistake coming here. Can I get some of that stuff off you, actually? Yeah, sure, but you're not just hanging out with me because of that, are you? What? Of course not. Dude, on a human level, can you not see? Like, can we all be wrong? And there's even worse stuff than that. You and that psycho are about to do the same thing again. Please, man. Yeah, well, he's evil.
Brilliant. Ty Hickey. Yeah, that was really well done. That was really well done. America's colonial past, right up to current involvement in international conflicts, very well summed up there, I think, by Thai. More on the Middle East later. First of all, let's all at least we can raise a wry smile at the breaking news story today. Apologies there, just lost the background music. Contempt of court. Obviously that's just an artist's impression there. I'll just bring up a few of the details for anyone who's not familiar. Well, if anyone's watching who isn't familiar with Yaxley-Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson, as he likes to call himself, he's a notorious UK-based, well, sometimes UK-based, sometimes abroad for long amounts of time, as he's attempting to orchestrate far-right riots in this country. But that's not what this concerns specifically with relation to Southport. The details of this go back to 2021. He's an absolute grifter, he's an absolute shill, he's just the worst. You can put him right up there with the likes of Nigel Farage, other notorious right-wing grifters. Before I pull a few details out of the article, I found out earlier on when I was scrolling through Twitter, I think it was, always Twitter, never X, here on my left eye, and someone had pointed out, they didn't cite the source on this, but it is someone I've been following for a while, and he's usually pretty reliable. Apparently he's managed to grift about £85,000 worth of donations to fight the case. These are his words, to fight the case. And then he's immediately pled guilty. So that's just a classic example of the far-right grift. Not sure if immediately pleading guilty is what you'd class as fighting the case. So this was for repeating false claims against a Syrian refugee. It was 10 breaches of a High Court order made 3 years ago at a hearing at Woolwich Crown Court. Lawyers accused the 41-year-old of undermining the rule of law, and he said that the judge, as he passed sentence, said that the breaches were amply crossed, and they weren't accidental, negligent, or merely reckless. So he's done this deliberately. He was under an order not to repeat previous false claims by a High Court, and then he's proceeded, as the far right always will, to go on some sort of crusade about free speech. But as we're more than aware, they say that and they really mean they want their right to spread lies, far right xenophobic hate. Oh, excuse me, just taking a sip of Solidari-Tea there. So yeah, October 2018. This actually goes further back than 2021. A video went viral showing how a Syrian in West Yorkshire had been attacked by another teenager at school. Yaxley-Lennon then posted his own response to 1 million Facebook followers, alleging that his investigation had established that Mr. Hijazi was a violent thug, a claim that was untrue. That was the claim he made. And he won £100,000 in damages. So even though he's managed to grift about, I don't know, 85% of that back, it's still a loss. And it just reminds us that he was the founder of the EDL, who are now sort of defunct as it is on paper. But the same sort of membership are kicking around under different names. And that film that he shared around that he was lying about was viewed 40, what did it say? At least 47 million times. Just finally, Judge Justice Johnson said, in a democratic society underpinned by the rule of law, court orders must be obeyed. Nobody's above the law. Nobody can pick or choose which laws, injunctions they obey or which they do not, even if they believe that injunction is contrary to their views. They must, and so on. Clear breach. That's a bit of good news. He only returned to the country recently, of course. I think it was half expecting to get arrested at the airport. Just take a look at what you think about that in the chat. You're right there, Morbius. He's grifted millions. Yeah, that's just one example of his griftery. It's just so sad to see how obviously people can be duped by this sort of mentality to the extent that he manages to grift millions. There's a lot of Israel lobbying going on in there as well, of course. Yeah, the picture's not very accurate, is it? Just checking out some of the comments in the chat again. Obviously that's the artist illustration, and that's what he looks like IRL. Well, there you go. Yeah, Stephen McKell, you're right. He's likes in Israel. He shills for Israel. Square head. Yeah. Let's not dwell on the illustration too long. What should we get on to next? I think we'll get on to Keith next. this pre-budget announcement, which is due in just a few days. The actual budget itself. Yeah, timing that with Halloween as well. The budget could be the most horrific thing that you see. Let's get rid of Tommy Squarehead. FSM is the dog. Great to see you again. I will be covering the COVID inquiry. Yeah. I know there's been a bit of hype about that lately. It's not going to be good. I don't think the results are going to be good. Don't have time to go into that this evening. So I've got a clip from Sky, and it's part of Keith's announcement today. I'll get onto that and then the bus fare thing. But one thing is just so apt, so fitting. I wish I would have screenshot it earlier. When I went on BBC homepage earlier today, the main story said that Labour were going to be increasing taxes in order to avoid austerity. I think it was the word avoid. And then just two stories to the right of it on the homepage was the announcement about the 50% increase in bus fares. That is the cap on bus fares. Recently, they were capped at £2. Now they're going to be going up to £3. Just two stories away. How do those two things connect? How do they marry up? I believe I asked Keith on his Twitter about that earlier as well. So let's see what's happening with this speech. This is just a few minutes or so of it. Don't worry, won't subject you to the robotic tones of Starmer for too long. Just kill the background music.
Because, let me tell you, it's working people who pay the price when their government fails to deliver economic stability. And they've had enough of slow growth, stagnant living standards, and crumbling public services. They know that austerity is no solution, and they've seen the chaos when politicians let borrowing get out of control. We choose a different path. Honest, responsible, long-term decisions in the interests...
As he's saying this, or a short time after, he's increasing bus fares by 50%, and most people, so many people in the top bracket of earners commute by bus. How do those two things make sense? This is absolute deluded insanity, Keith.
Of working people. Because it's stability that means we can invest, and reform that will maximise that investment. £63 billion worth of investment secured from business 2 weeks ago. A record-breaking show of confidence in our plan for growth.
No. That's going to be because you promised them tax breaks and these kind of things. I'm pretty certain that there's not going to be any major reform with things like minimum wage in the budget that would help, you know, air quote, working people. And they still continue to have this argument and get pulled upon it by people like Sophie Ridge and Laura Kussenberg about the definition of working people. I don't know if you saw any of that over the weekend. But these are the kind of things that are going to help out low-income workers.
That's investment that will create tens of thousands of jobs, good jobs, in every corner of the country.
That they're going to be paying hundreds of pounds a year more now to have to commute to. Even if they're only working part-time. An increase of 50% on most bus fares. I don't know about the situation where you live, wherever you're watching the Brews at 10 from this evening. But here in Manchester, we have a thing called the B Network, which is pretty recent. It was brought in mostly under the supervision of Mayor Andy Burnham. But essentially, there were so many different bus company operators, different franchises, a whole bunch of different fares as well. And then it's all essentially being brought into one system called the B Network. And the fares are capped at £2. And it's been like that for a while now. So do let me know what the increase in bus fares will mean for whichever region you live in. If you're listening or watching from the UK. And then just after we hear a little bit more from Keith, I'm going to bring up a policy that was going to be enacted under the former leader of the Labour Party, a little reminder about what you could have won. But instead, we're left with this absolute shite house.
I know that some people recoil from the tough decisions we have to make to fix the foundations.
I recoil from your neoliberal policies, Keith. I recoil from the fact that you think by sounding serious it's going to be enough of a veil for the fact that your policies are the same austerity that the Tories put on us for a decade and a half. Because it just doesn't wash, Keith. It really doesn't. And I can't stand this tough decisions crap. How many more times are we going to hear this from neolibs? They're not tough at all. They're not tough at all. It's just the government pandering to the few, pandering to the wealthiest in society, whilst leaving low-income workers behind. And the unemployed and disabled people, and so many other people who've had services stripped, and increases in costs at the other end, because austerity is a double-edged sword in that way. Cost goes up as things are being taken away from you.
But that investment, it didn't happen by accident. It's because businesses can see that we're fixing the foundation.
The party without slogans. Once again, stood in front of a slogan. And yes, it's got 3 words. Austerity does not create stability. You're quite right there, Andy Carter. Just having a look at a few of the comments again. Becca, absolutely spot on, yeah. He's a thief and a liar. Sir Keith the Quiche. Keith the robotic quiche. Notice a couple of you have brought up housing. That is going to be something that's supposed to be popping up in the budget as well. From what I've heard, he's going to be... It's crumbs on the table, essentially. He's only going to be putting about £500 million into social housing. That's about enough to pay for a couple of thousand social homes. When we need projects much more ambitious than that. Certainly in the many thousands, if not the millions. That's a bit of another topic, though. But you're right there, yeah. Becca's also brought up that there are 1 million houses sat there, empty properties. And he wants to build more, but mostly in the private sector. More landlordism, yeah, which has been one of the scourges on UK society for years as well.
Everyone who finds damp in their house knows they have to make a decision. Paint over it, or strip it out, pull off the plaster, and deal with it once and for all. So I will defend our tough decisions all day long. It's the right thing for our country, and it's the only way to get the investment that we need.
He will, translation, asterisk, he will lie to the country all day long and all night long. With every waking moment, with every breath he utters.
Stability, investment, reform. That is how we will fix the NHS, rebuild Britain, and protect the payslips of working people, delivering on our mandate of change.
Oh, the absolute gall of the man. Well, anybody who's commuting by bus has now just got hundreds of pounds a year more to shell out on getting themselves to work in the first place. How's that going to help, Keith? Floor Snake, welcome back as well. Yeah, he described mould and rot, not damp. So his dad mustn't have made builder's tools. Good point, good point. And welcome back, Ian McKenna, as well. Great to see you too. Yeah, so this is just quickly go over a bit about the announcement about buses. And as usual, it's you know, blame the Tories, copy the Tories, but blame the Tories at the same time. You're definitely not being lied to. Sorry, I'll just bring up the background music one sec. Well, this commuter doesn't look particularly pleased about the announcement. He must have just heard it. Keith's major claim is that the Tories had only budgeted for this until the end of this year, so the £3 cap's going to come in 2025, which isn't too far away at the moment. But if the Tories could budget for that, and you're constantly, and I'm not defending the Tories or the austerity that they enacted, but if your budgeting if they're so tight that they're the worst of the worst, but your budgeting can't even match the Tories when it comes to public transport, which is one of the things that gets decimated anytime the Tories are in power, of course, then what does that say about your budgeting? What does that say about your political stance? Because it definitely can't be to the left if it's an increase. Oh, excuse me. Let's take another sip. As I said, in Manchester we have this separate system, the B network. So fortunately that won't affect anybody in Manchester, neither will it for London. But of course, so many areas, so many commuters are going to feel the burden of this one. It's £1.75 in London, the article. Just reminds us, 3.4 million people in England currently use buses, whether they're commuting or not. The Confederation of Passenger Transport has said that raising the cap from £2 has avoided travellers facing a cliff edge at the end of this year, but said an increase to £3 will still present challenges for many passengers, particularly those who rely on buses as the primary means of affordable travel. This is one example. This is students at Lancaster University, Joshua Anderton. He says it's an awful idea. Obviously it's an awful idea. A minimum spend of £4 a day on bus tickets, sometimes more when you have to commute multiple times a day. Students aren't exactly up to their eyeballs in cash, neither are a lot of working families. I dare say this couldn't even be the worst element of the budget that's going to come out when Reeves announces it. He could just be warming us up with this one. And it just says as well, the chair of Eastern Transport Holdings, which runs bus services in Essex, has warned that it would present such a big jump that not only it will cause hardship for some, but of course it will result in some people saying they're not going to take the bus anymore. And that's why it's a ridiculous idea economically as well, however many times Starmer thinks he can just shout, "Go economy, go," as if it's some magic spell, all of these air quote genius ideas are going to fly back in his face. There's only, there's only so many times they can yell out £22 billion black hole and look at what we've inherited. And I think they're going to get absolutely rinsed in the council elections. Just noticed you mentioning the council, Andy, in the chat there. And I think the Greens are going to make some gains. But that's another matter. Yeah, this is... this budget is going to absolutely reek. I do have a few more bits and pieces to move on to. That's all I'll say about that. Just give me a sec. Let's see where should we go next. Yeah, just a quick mention. I won't bring up any articles or anything because I'm not going to play the original video of this incident with the Labour MP assaulting somebody in the street and being suspended. That's the long and short of it. At the moment, I've seen the clip, I've seen it a few times as well. Not sure what the actual full circumstances are at the moment. But considering that I've had a couple of issues with videos, live streams I should say, being temporarily demonetised, I don't want to risk breaking terms of service by playing you the video. You've probably already seen it, but I would love to know what you think about that one. But someone pointed out earlier that in the run-up to the election, obviously there was a lot of controversy about people who were very pally-pally with Starmer getting parachuted into seats and usurping essentially previously elected Labour MPs who were deselected. But that the quality of these people who were getting parachuted in was absolutely diamond, and that's the reason that they were doing it. Well, according to Angela Rayner, anyway, in the example that I saw. But this is one of the newly elected Labour MPs. So we'll wait to see the outcome of that, whether he's been charged or not as well. He did a John Prescott. Yeah. If you're not familiar with that one. Oh god, that was quite a while back. But John Prescott, former Labour, swung at someone during a public appearance. He had a reputation for gaffes during public appearances as well. There's another one where he thinks it's being recorded, he doesn't know it's live, and he says something like, "Oh, I absolutely fucked that up there, can we do another take?" And then they say, "Oh, we're live, Mr. Prescott," and it's total, oh god, the reaction on his face. Yeah, so that story's a couple of days old now, I'm sure. You've all caught up with that one. I won't dwell on that, just there's a few other bits I want to get through. I'm going to start with this session in the House of Commons today. Whilst I'm queuing that up, I'll just remind you again to hit the thumbs up button on the stream. Please do subscribe if you've not done so as well. Okay, I'll start with this one. Oh, actually, just very quickly, sorry. There was something I did forget. This, well, was supposed to be just to tie those two clips together. But on bus fares, Jeremy Corbyn had some other ideas 5 years ago. And just a reminder, just a reminder about what he could have won. Because he's the first person I'm going to play from the session in the House of Commons today, so okay, that's solid now. Let's just zoom in a bit. Do you remember this one? Free bus travel for under 25s. Not £2, not £3, free, gratis for under 25s.
I'm here in Derby with Andy MacDonald to launch a great policy for young
buffering
people. Free bus travel for everyone under the age of 25. We've lost 134 million miles of bus routes because private operators choose to make a profit and scrap the ones that don't. And since the Tories came to power, the number of bus trips by young people has declined by 40%. So Labour will fund every local authority to offer free bus travel for under 25s by encouraging them to take back control of their buses. We want councils to control bus franchises so they can deliver a service for the many, not the few. We'll pay for free bus travel for the under 25s by using a percentage of the vehicle excise duty. This policy will make a real difference to young people who tend to be lower paid, in insecure work, and spend a high proportion of their income on travel. Whether it's going to work, to study, or just out and about to see your mates, getting the bus reduces road congestion, cuts down on pollution, and helps us lead more active lives. And young people could save up to £1,000 a year in bus fares. Our transport services are better run, more efficient, and more effective when they're publicly controlled and publicly owned. Private bus companies have put profit before people for far too long. Under Labour, we will change all of that.
Well, what could have been, eh? Yeah, apologies, slight correction. Just back to the story about the MP fisticuffs incident. They're not a new appointee, they were elected in 2017. So that would have obviously been a great policy. But Corbyn was up in the House of Commons today on the issue of Gaza. Just get this one queued up. It was Home Secretary David Lammy responding to these couple of questions I'm going to show you examples of. Oh, clip there. But for the second one, for his response, considering he's the Home Secretary of the UK, doesn't exactly seem up to speed on current events. I won't spoil what that one's all about, but just pause this a sec. Just before we see what Corbyn had to say. You might be familiar with a gaffe that David Lammy made once, where he was being interviewed in the street. It was probably in his constituency in Tottenham. And it was on the issue of policing. And as he's looking into the camera, saying, "Where are they? Look around. You don't see any police around here." There are literally one or two policemen walking up the street behind him. Not too far behind him either. And the next example just goes to show his lack of awareness, shall we say. Maybe he is aware and he's just lobbied to say otherwise. But we'll hear from Corbyn first.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Foreign Secretary would have heard from the member for Argyll earlier when he quoted Joyce Masuya, the humanitarian chief of the UN, who says, and I quote, "The entire population of northern Gaza is at risk of dying, on top of the 1,000 that died last week, on top of all those living in the most desperate situation in southern Gaza, on top of the occupation of southern Lebanon, the bombing of southern Beirut, and now the dangers of a hot war with Iran and Israel. Isn't it time that instead of expressing concern about the humanitarian catastrophe in the region, we stopped supplying Israel with the weapons that have caused the humanitarian catastrophe in the first place, and we suspend arms supplies in total to Israel in order to bring about a ceasefire and a cessation of this, frankly, murder of an innocent civilian population?"
Foreign Secretary.
Well, I know the strength of feeling that my neighbour in North London has on these issues and is long-standing campaigning on these issues. But can I just assure him that we're not just wringing our hands. The work of UK Med in hospitals is hugely important, and I was very pleased to make further funds available to them in coming into office. The work of the Disasters Emergency Committee in raising further funds and the way in which government has match funded that to the tune of...
David, he was asking you directly about arms sales, the cessation in total of arms sales to Israel. It's no good trying to throw a few crumbs on the table on the other end and, you know, oh, we're doing this and that for humanitarian assistance when we are directly assisting the collective punishment of the very people who are supposed to be receiving said welfare. It's just absolute insanity.
Of 10 million is hugely important. It was great and very good to be in Jordan a few weeks ago. discussing.
He didn't ask you how your little trip to Jordan went, David. That's not what you were asked. What's the... And obviously the speaker's not going to... I believe it might be the deputy speaker on this session, I believe. But they're not going to intervene. Answer the bloody question, David.
With King Abdullah, his airlifts into Jordan and the planning that he's getting from UK armed forces in organising those airlifts and that air bridge that he's been keen to take forward. So it's not just, these are actions, these are real things that we're doing, not just the wringing of hands.
It is the wringing of hands. Lowering the amount that we provide Israel with by single digits in terms of percentage is pathetic, as well as the fact that F-35s, parts for F-35s are still being supplied. Also, the fact that we're doing spy plane runs to assist Israel in attacking and besieging a population, and then saying we're providing this support through aid, is just absolutely grotesque. That's worse than the wringing of hands. It's complicity.
And when he describes the situation in Gaza, he largely describes much that I said in my opening in this debate. And as I said before, and I'll say again, we have suspended arms that could be used in contravention of international humanitarian law where there is a clear risk according to our export licensing regime, and he should be reassured that we've done that.
They haven't done that. Essentially, still, of course, having the lobbyists' opinions as the main priority. They know what they well, no, they don't know. They think they can get away with so much, but they've cut out everything that they're pretty sure that they won't get away with, should this come up in an international court. But we've not done that. You know, I've cited those examples. There are others. But to be on the right side of history on this thing, as other countries have done and introduced proper sanctions on Israel, you need to just wholesale cut out supplying them anything. Any kind of assistance, any kind of weaponry. But that's the only answer you'll ever get out of Lammy at the dispatch box, unfortunately. And before I play the second example, which concerns the G word, whether Israel is carrying out genocide, before I show you the question, Lammy's response, as I said, is lack of awareness prevailing yet again. I want you to consider this. It's a relative of one of the lawyers at the International Court of Justice. You'll get the context in a second as to why I'm showing you this. But you might be one step ahead of me. So it's the niece. Is it a nephew or niece? Sorry, I don't know the gender. Very proud of the fact that their uncle is delivering almost 5,000 pages detailing Iran's genocidal acts in Gaza at the International Court of Justice. There's a picture of it. He can barely fit it in the back of his car. Yeah, that's not the biggest boot. It's a people carrier. But look how many boxes there are there. And consider this picture. Consider this gentleman. Sorry, he's not named. in the post. But please do consider this gentleman when you see Lammy's response to this question, which was shared by Lial Mohammed. Who came very close to unseating Wes Streeting. So I'll just put this on again from the start. No audio there. Just check that's lined up as well. Yeah, another thing worth noting, and I've spotted this a few times recently. Lammy chooses to answer this question very slowly, very calmly, and similar to what Starmer does, but in a sort of a different style, a different timbre, if you will. It believes that demeanour can wash over the content of what he's actually saying. So that's what I want to get onto as well. So we've seen a boot full of documents, almost 5,000 pages, citing why.
So will the Foreign Secretary take this opportunity to say that there is not a genocide occurring in the Middle East?
Foreign Secretary.
These are quite properly legal terms that must be determined by international courts. But
that's the pertinent.
These are quite properly legal terms that must be determined by international courts.
They are legal terms that must be determined by international courts, but such as the International Court of Justice, who've just been presented with 5,000 pages of it, David. You're supposed to be pretty up on these subjects. You know, this is what the public pay you for. You do have the public's interest first, don't you, David? And not lobbyists, don't you?
But I do agree with the Honourable Gentleman. Those terms were largely used when millions of people lost their lives in crises like Rwanda, the Second World War and the Holocaust. And the way that they are used now undermines the seriousness of that term.
Bollocks! That's... No. There are literally 2 million people displaced now in Gaza. It's the only time in history that an entire population has been displaced during the war. The number of children who have been killed exceeds that of one of the examples you gave there, the Second World War. That's an absolute nonsense, and it doesn't undermine the definition of it. It isn't dramatic to call it out for what it is, because the very ideology of Zionism is that every single Palestinian should be driven out of Palestine, out of their own land. And if that means committing mass murder while you're doing that, that's perfectly acceptable to Zionists, according to the doctrine, according to the warped ideology of it. So to say that that undermines what happened in Rwanda and World War II is absolute lunacy. And I think David Lammy full well knows that. But he checks where his pockets are lying first before he speaks. And as I said, I noticed that's why he spoke so slowly there and put it so succinctly. On matters such as this stuff feeds back to the people who lobby him. And at the last example, when he went to meet Benjamin Netanyahu, just after his paltry reduction in arms sales, he wasn't even seen. He had to come back home with his tail between his legs. So he knows that what he says at that dispatch box during sessions such as this gets back to his paymasters. That's what you see there. That is absolutely not what's going on. And for goodness sake, Lammy, you're a lawyer yourself. Do you not know about the International Court of Justice session today? Are you not familiar with what Antonio Guterres, the Director General of the United Nations, has stated on several occasions so far, as well as the International Court of Justice requesting arrest warrants? These are legal things. This is supposed to be right up your street. Home Secretary of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, David Lammy there. Get the net, David. But speaking of which, I'm going to bring up a clip from one of the recent protests down in London. I thought this was a particularly fine appearance. Just very quickly on some of the latest from today. There have been Israeli attacks on Lebanon again. Before we hear from the deputy leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski. You can see there as well on the sign, it's at the Oppose Tommy Robinson demo that was in London. There were some of his supporters went down there. Some of the people who got duped by the grift went down to support him. So well done to everybody who showed up for that counter demo as well. But this is a great speech. And as I said just today, Israel are attacking Tyre in Lebanon, right by a UNESCO World Heritage Site, by the way. There have been other attacks on another school, unfortunately, in Palestine as well. These atrocities, unfortunately, continue to pile up. But there is hope. People continue to take a stand against this. And this is what Zach Polanski had to say about that.
This is the hope. This is communities coming together and knowing we are unstoppable. We know when they come for one of us, they come for all of us. And friends, we will stand together. Because this is it right here. This is groups of people coming together to fight for fairer wages, to stop the planet being trashed, to say, let's fund climate action and let's stop funding immediately the genocide. We stand with Palestinian people, we stand with refugees, we stand with communities of colour, we stand with all people who are marginalised, and we will continue to stand with them. And we will never, ever forget the Windrush scandal. We will never forget the 72 people who died in the Grenfell Tower. And we will never forget government ministers who tell lies like we have lost control of our borders. We know that migration is not something we tolerate. Migration is something we celebrate. So finally, I want to end here. That I and the Green Party stand with you. We stand with the movements here. We must all stand together for justice in Palestine, to tackle the super wealthy, their corporate and vested interests. We know the threat does not come by dinghy or small boat. The threat is flying by private jet. It's flying above our picket lines. It's flying above our food banks. But together, we will stand here in solidarity. And friends, we will win. Thank you.
Jack Polanski, the deputy leader of the Green Party. Great speech. There were just some snippets of the highlights as well. Did any of you go to the demo down there in London last weekend to oppose the far right and show a bit of support for Palestine while you were in there as well, of course? Let me know. Let me know in the comments or in the chat if you come on live. Bear with me, folks. Quickly just check if there's any breaking news while I'm on the stream. Where the Middle East is concerned, of course, this is a very fluid situation, of course. I just want to make sure we're up to speed before we move on. Just a very quick skim through this. Israel have banned United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency. What saints? I mean, they attack UNRWA, they attack United Nations. Earlier today I saw a clip, well, I think it was an Al Jazeera journalist, asked a UN spokesperson if he'd neglected to mention that another UN staff member was killed in a car the day before. He said that he hadn't, but he was having to talk about so many atrocities. This was 20 minutes into the spokesperson's presentation that he hadn't managed to get up to that part yet. And they've been attacking aid agencies for some time now, and now a refugee agency. Let's just take a quick look. Yes, now anybody who's in UNRWA is banned from operating within Israel and Israeli-occupied East Jerusalem within 3 months. That was passed in the Parliament. They won't have legal immunity and the agency's headquarters in East Jerusalem will be closed now. There's obviously an overwhelmingly small amount of aid getting through into Gaza at the moment. Way, way, way below what is needed. And this is just going to be increasingly detrimental to that situation. It's grotesque, isn't it? It gets worse and worse. They do. I mean, look at this now again. Lammy trying to play both sides. How many examples are there going to be? He's called it totally wrong. Other countries, including the US and Germany, have expressed concern about the move. Again, US are funding this whole thing. They've pumped hundreds of billions of dollars into Israel. I think the high 70s as a percentage. That's what the Americans chip in for all this. And Germany and Italy and the UK as well. That's very, that goes to show and is again very atypical as well. The example I gave about the 5,000 documents at the ICJ, but he also mentioned, in avoiding the question that Corbyn put to him, he tried to gloat about the amount of aid that the UK are trying to get into Gaza, and now this happens. These are your friends who are doing this. Home Secretary. Apparently they were approved by an overwhelming majority. It says, and that was just this evening. So that's some breaking news there. How can... they say that they have the most moral army in the world, don't they? There's no moral justification in this whatsoever. In the past, of course, they've attempted to label UNRWA as anti-Semitic. That's always the first move for anybody who might criticise or contradict them. And now this. And the commissioner, it says, General Philippe Lazzarini, condemned the ban as unprecedented and said it opposes the UN Charter and violates the State of Israel's obligation under international law, of course. But Netanyahu gives not a shit about international law and has been very open in saying so. They're directly attacking the United Nations in Lebanon and in Gaza at the same time. That's all I'll say about that. So that's just. But let me know what you think. This is horrid. Horrid. This is a humanitarian crisis beyond comprehension. But I'll just leave that one there for now, people. Let me know in the comments or chat. Give me your 2 cents on that one. Just one sec, I'll be right with you. I'm going to move on to a different topic. Something hopefully a bit more positive. Alright people, thanks for your patience. So just the final story I'm going to move on to. But please do hang around. I'm going to be checking out for some raiding, redirecting as well. Thanks a lot for staying with me tonight on the channel. I'll finish with this story. Oh, for God's sake. So I've saved the... I did save the right article, but it's now turned into a scrolling newsfeed about the Trump rallies in general. It must be down here somewhere. Bear with me. So this £1 million giveaway that Musk's been doing, $1 million giveaway I should say, that Musk's been doing for people who've signed a petition apparently about saving the Constitution. The DA, I've forgotten which, you'll have to forgive me, I've forgotten off the top of my head which district attorney it is, but they've said that's way over the line legally, and they're suing him. They're suing Elon Musk, the another grifter, but he's a stock trade pump and dump merchant. So as I said, so far 9 people have been issued $1 million checks. I'll just open the window up. So I'm still trying to find the specific part about Musk being sued. Well, that was an interesting point though, as well. Something I just went past. About just under half of voters in the last election actually voted early by postal vote, postal vote system that they have in America. And you take that and you put it in a special mailbox, and apparently someone had put an explosive device into one of these mailboxes in Washington and just completely destroyed all the ballots. Oh my god. Cringe. We've got pro wrestler Hulk Hogan up there as well. At the Trump rally this is, I think. Yeah. Harris has been out as well. So there's a picture of Musk. Sorry, the content on the article itself has actually changed since I bookmarked it before. But it did speak at the rally. Won't subject you to that. You remember what a cringe fest that was last time with his jumping, if you want to call it jumping, around the stage. Well, noticed in the comments Ian, you're saying a few million's peanuts to him. It is at the moment, with him supposedly on paper being the richest, wealthiest man in the world. Just very quickly, I'll explain. Most of that comes from Tesla. And when you say the name Tesla, most people think it's an electric car company. The way that they're actually listed, defined on the stock market, is actually as a tech company, and he has a lot of other projects going on as well, notoriously not doing very well. You've got the Hyperloop, the Cybertruck, this space race to Mars thing he's trying to push, robotic, automated taxi systems, the list goes on and on. But the fact that they are listed as a tech company is actually pretty significant, because it's within that area of the stock market that you see a lot of what's known as these pump and dumps, and that's essentially used to shill fake technology to people, grab the cash from investors, and then the whole stock will drop, but in the meantime you're living it up as a multi-billionaire on paper because of the value of your stock. Now, recently, especially with so-called investments takeovers in Twitter as well, he's actually been on a losing streak for quite a while now, monetarily. Elon Musk, and a lot of people have good reason to speculate that this, Elon could be the next Enron and things like this. Former very wealthy multi-billionaires suddenly seeing almost overnight stock crashes when the bubble bursts, and that could be pretty imminent. So while a few million isn't much to him at the moment, it certainly could be forthcoming. Don't say you didn't hear it first on My Left Eye. Who else has been up? There's been a few celebrities, as I said, endorsing both candidates. So earlier when I was looking through some of the live reporting as well, do you remember the Dr. Phil? Dr. Phil, the sort of TV talk show host, who gives out very basic relationship advice to a bunch of clapping circus seals. Sorry, I'm not a particular fan myself, but apparently he was there with Trump as well. On this thing about the comedian, yeah, so Trump's had this stand-up comedian who's apparently pretty big over in the US. I think he's a regular on the Joe Rogan podcast or Joe Rogan show, which Trump has also made an appearance on. So he got to speak at the rally. This guy, not Joe Rogan himself, this stand-up who appears, and he made some pretty detrimental remarks about Puerto Rico, saying that it was just like, I think he said something like floating garbage or something like that with the words that he used. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. I'm not sure if it'll be brought up, but obviously Puerto Rican community's been, oh yeah, it's there. So he described it as a floating island of garbage. That was the exact quote. That's the guy. Tony Hinchcliffe. That's he. Sorry. I won't play the clip itself. That was awful. But as well as what I've said about Elon Musk and what may or may not be coming up on the stock market as well, this lawsuit could certainly affect his his value. It's not very far away, either the US election. Pennsylvania's where Harris was campaigning as well. But regular viewers will know that I don't believe out of those main two candidates that there's that much of a choice in the US. I did hear something earlier as well about Jill Stein, who's standing for the Greens, the Green Party in the US, apparently being removed from the ballots in one area, which doesn't seem very democratic. So I've just quickly found a link to the specific thing I was talking about at first. Larry Krasner is the district attorney, that's him. Sorry, it took me a while to find that particular part of the live report. So he's the DA in Philadelphia. And it's the first time that any official challenge has been put to Musk over this giveaway, as I was saying. And it just so happens, as this part of the article mentions, nearly half has been given to residents of Pennsylvania, which just happens to be a battleground, or swing state, if you will, that could hold the keys to the White House. What a coincidence. So in a swing state, you get a bullshit tech stock hype merchant, pump and dump grifter to come and give away $1 million a day. And that certainly isn't trying to buy political influence or anything, is it? Or voter influence, even. Oh, absolutely not. I'm not sure what the repercussions of this could be. It could be, and I'm just speculating here, obviously my knowledge of US law isn't as granular on these particular issues, but maybe the people who can you imagine? I could see this happening. Maybe, potentially. They might turn around and say, you know that $1 million that Elon Musk gave you? Yeah, you've got to give that back. Oh, what do you mean you spent it all on Donald Trump bumper stickers? And yeah, what else? God knows what else. Or it could be a lot worse than that. Could this potentially be something Musk might potentially go to prison or serve time for? I'm not sure. But it's quite unprecedented, you see. It certainly looks dodgy as anything. But we've never had it before where someone's just come along and said, I'll give away $1 million a day to voters in a swing state, so... That was it as well, but it was at Madison Square Garden. Just forgot to mention that part. Those comments from the so-called stand-up comedian. All right, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'm going to be calling it a night myself very shortly, but like I said, please do stick around. I'm going to be redirecting you into Helena in just a moment.
Because,
Sorry about that. I do just want to give another customary thank you to all the members on the channel. Before you go, do make sure you've hit the thumbs up button as well, please. Thanks a lot for staying with me this evening. It's been great to catch up again. Can't stay on any longer though. I do have to be up quite early in the morning, so thank you, wonderful people, for your current support, and those who've gifted memberships to other people recently, as always. And anybody watching back on a replay, please do consider supporting with super thanks. Hope to see you again through the week. There's going to be more Brews at 10s. A lot of PMQs in there as well. Right, let's see who's about. I think I saw Kevin Logan on earlier. Still be on. Or maybe Helena at No Justice. Yeah, cool. We do have Helena at No Justice. There we go, so don't go anywhere. Anyone who's not familiar with No Justice channel, please do stick around. Great stuff, great content. If you are... Sorry, I'm just in the middle of something. Yeah, I'd definitely recommend that for political commentary. From a left-wing point of view, of course. Alright, so that's it from me. I will see you next time on the Brews at 10. Take care, people. My Left, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night.